Hey everybody, this is Peter Yang with a video walkthrough of Super Dodgeball. Now I'm trying something new this time. I'm going to provide audio commentary along with the gameplay so you'll hopefully get a little bit more out of the video. I'm not going to play this like I always do. I'm going to show you every member of the team and demonstrate some different gameplay. Now that being said, the video can't be too long, so I'm going to try to save time where possible. Alright, first up are the Allstars. This is an easy team to beat, but they're fun to use in versus play because they have good power moves, including the only player in the game with 3 power moves in Paul. He has 1 aerial and 2 ground moves. Alright, Mike has the ball. His aerial move is called the Wave. This isn't that good because you can't aim it and it has a fixed horizontal distance. I don't know the name of his ground move, but it's not very good either. You can't aim it and it's easy for opponents to catch. John's ground move is called the Sideline. This one's a little bit better since it's harder to catch, but again, you can't aim it. John's aerial move is called the Psycho. This one's good because you can aim it, so you can use it to hit opponents that aren't actively being controlled. Sam's ground move is called the Spear. It's great and you're going to see me use it a lot because it goes through multiple opponents and you can aim it. Now, quick note about power moves. You need a proper running start to execute them, but you can't be running too long for the ground moves. Just observe how I do them and you should be able to do them too. You can do aerial moves either going backwards or forwards. England has the worst endurance in the game, so you're able to do a lot of damage against them with your power moves. Randy's aerial move is called the Compressor. I like it because it's a high damage move and it sends players around the world, which allows you to take free shots against them, as you'll see later. Bill's aerial move is called the Lightning. When you throw it close, it only goes into the air for a short period of time. If you throw it from way back, it stays in the air for a long time. His ground move is called the Breaker. It tends to work best if you throw it nice and late so it breaks behind opponents, making it harder to catch. Now a quick note about player stats. So you can tell a player's strengths based on their appearance. For example, players with small eyes like Mike have good catching ability. Players with a lot of hair like John have a lot of endurance. Players who look like Randy have good ball break. Players who look like Steve have high throw technique. And players who are bald like Bill have high agility. The captains of every team have the most energy and the highest throw power. India has the highest endurance of any team in the game, so they take the least amount of damage with every single hit. Now here you see the advantage of using the Compressor. Kumar was still on my side of the field and couldn't defend himself against that second power shot. And the disadvantage that India does have is that they have low energy coupled with that high endurance, so they start panting nice and early. The advantage that you have when you're playing against a team that starts panting this early is you get in a lot of free hits, as you see me doing with the Spear here. Now that being said, Swami has an excellent endurance, only taking 1 or 2 points of damage with every single power shot. Compare this to his teammate Rajiv, who takes 5 or 6 points of damage with every single power shot. So Swami requires a lot more hits to lose energy. Every single bar at the top represents 4 points of energy. In this video, you'll notice that my favorite lineup is Randy, Steve, and Sam. I usually use them because I like their power moves the most. Bill is a good alternate as well. I rarely use John or Mike because I don't like their power moves and I don't need John's endurance. In this video, I give the computer an opportunity to change their players before every round. This way you get an idea of which players they prefer. Some teams like Kenya use the same players almost all the time, whereas other teams vary their choices. The next team is Iceland. This is a fun team to play against because of their field. Players slide when they catch the ball, so if you throw a power shot, there's a reasonable chance that your opponent's going to slide into the sidelines and give the ball back to you. The team captain of Iceland, Helgi, throws a ball called the Warp that disappears soon after he throws it. Now it can be a little intimidating to catch first, but it's actually not that hard to catch if you time it properly. The ball goes straight, doesn't change speed at all, so if you time it properly, you shouldn't have any problems catching it. Now you'll notice when I throw the Spear that I try to curve the ball up and down. This tends to make it a little bit harder for the computer to catch, and increases the chance that you're going to hit multiple players with it. You'll notice that when I throw the ball, one player on the opponent's side will be blinking. This is the player who's actively being targeted. You can decrease the chances of the computer actually catching your ball if you target a player who's not blinking. You can tell who you're going to pass the ball to because his hands will be moving. So if you want to pass the ball to somebody else, move away from the person whose hands are moving and move toward the person that you want to pass the ball to until his hands are moving. And it'd be a shame to bring Bill along without letting him throw the ball, so let's let him throw a breaker right here. Even though Nils catches the ball, he slid into the sideline, so he's going to pan. Now notice that when Steve threw the ball, there was a whoosh sound. That meant that he threw the ball at the peak of his jump. Balls thrown like this have faster speed and do more damage. China's supposed to have good catch technique, but they actually don't do a very good job catching the ball at all, and they have really low endurance, which means that you finish them off super fast. Normally when you play against them, Wang throws a breaker also. So usually the best technique for catching the breaker is either to stand way back and get the ball after it's broken and still going forward towards you, or to go forward and to turn around and let the ball break towards you. You can also just duck under the ball, but chances are it's going to go into the sidelines and they're going to get the ball back. Next up is Kenya. This can be a hard field for players to do power moves on at first because there's sand on it, so you run differently and you have to charge it for power moves differently. Just pay attention to how I'm doing these power moves and you should be able to do them too. It's actually nice since you don't have to run nearly as far to do a ground power move, so you can hit a lot of players as they're going back towards their side of the field. Notice how it's also possible to catch power moves right after they're thrown by your opponent. As you can see, Taha also throws the lightning like Bill of Team USA. Yemi's ground move is called the boomerang. He normally goes in the air to the back of the field and then swings back toward you. Now it's not aimed, so you can run out of the way of the boomerang if you want to, but the problem is it can sometimes hit your teammates, so I normally stand in the middle of the field, face towards the back, and try to catch the shot. This time the boomerang bounced harmlessly on the ground, so it wasn't going to hit me anyway. This upcoming move with Steve is his aerial move called the accelerator. Now, I've found that if you throw it from the back of the field and let it speed up before hitting the opponent, the computer has a really hard time catching it. Next up is Japan. They normally just feed the ball to their main player, Fuji, who throws a lot of compressors, so unless you're good at catching power moves, you're going to take a lot of damage. Now something I didn't mention a little bit earlier, starting with China, a lot of teams will start to intercept your passes if you're not careful about them. So, to prevent your passes from being intercepted, you can usually walk closer to the player that you're throwing the ball to. For example, if I want to pass the Bill up top, I would walk all the way to the top before passing to him. And you can also do jump passes, which are less frequently intercepted. Steve's ground move is the uppercut. It's useful because it can go through multiple players. It sometimes uppercuts early though, so you might not always get the ball back after it hits your opponent. Okay, now again, notice that Sato has the best endurance on the team because Sato has a lot of hair. So you can usually tell who you need to target based on their appearance. The endurance guys stick around the longest, so if you get a free hit in on them, you try to do it. USSR has great stats, high energy, high throw power, and high endurance. My strategy against them is usually just to throw lots of power moves at them and to take openings as you get them. That means using the compressor to try to score free hits, the spear to hit multiple opponents, and the blaster since it does a lot of damage and the computer seems to have a harder time catching it. Now a note about the sideline guys. You'll notice that I put Bill up at the top. He has the highest throw power of the 3 sideline guys with a throw power of 8. If you use a ground move like the spear or uppercut that goes through opponents, you can usually score a free hit on people if you want to by passing to the person up top and doing a jump throw and hitting the guy who's still on the ground. You usually don't see me do this because I can do a lot more damage just by passing back to the guy on the left side of the field. But if you are at the end of the game or you really want to get rid of a certain player, you can pass to the guy up top and do some damage that way. Now you notice that Boris also has the accelerator, except his doesn't tend to cause much trouble for you because he throws it at the midline, so it doesn't have a lot of opportunity to speed up. Usually the biggest confusion with the accelerator is when he actually doesn't get it off and does a normal throw, and that actually comes to hit you faster than the accelerator would. Okay, now most people think you can't do power moves against sideline guys, but watch what Steve does. Did an accelerator right against the top sideline guy of USSR. Most people know that you can just throw the ball and hit somebody for some fun, but since the accelerator goes down to ground level so early, you can also score power moves against the sideline guys. They come back eventually, so you can see the guy heading back towards the left, but it's fun and you can get rib guys for a while by doing a power move against them. Okay, and that does it for USSR. The last team you're going to play is their Shadow team. These are the same guys that you chose to play against USSR with, except they have bulked up stats. So they have great endurance, they catch the ball a lot better, and they also throw some power moves at you. If you want to have a slightly easier time, you could choose a weaker player for the USSR round like Mike, and omit a player that throws powerful shots like Sam or Randy. I think that'd be less fun. You wouldn't want to choose John because of his good endurance. The order of your players on the field doesn't matter too much, but I did select Randy, Steve, and Sam in that order for a reason. I like to open up with Randy and throw a compressor to hopefully get a few extra free shots against my opponents. The computer also tends to frequently target your third player, so I like to put Sam in that position so he can counter with the spear in case the computer does a power move around the middle of the field. It could also be a good idea to put a player with high energy or good endurance in your third slot, since that player would be able to stick around a little bit longer, giving you more flexibility with your power shot selection. I mentioned that Paul of the Allstars was special with regards to his power shots. His aerial power shot is actually done from a standing jump while throwing at the peak of his jump. This makes him special because he's the only player who can do a power shot from the sidelines. However, if you use the All-Stars, you probably want to use him in the field. His normal ground power shot is the Warp. The shot that Helgi of Iceland throws that disappears. His special ground power shot is thrown by running and immediately throwing the ball. The ball will travel in loops across the field, running through any players that don't catch it. It can be avoided if your opponent ducks, but it's the most unique power move in the game. A quick word about the difficulty levels in Super Dodgeball. On Easy, computer opponents will not be able to catch any power shots, so you could just breeze through the whole game by throwing a bunch of spears with Sam. The main difference between the normal and difficult levels are that computer opponents are a little bit better at catching your shots at the difficult level, and the computer opponents throw power moves more frequently on difficult. With that being said, nobody's going to argue that Super Dodgeball is a very difficult game to beat. Okay, so that does it. This was one of my favorite games when I was growing up, and it was fun to make this video for you. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I welcome any comments or suggestions that you might have.